beep, beep, beep. Good morning, all. Welcome to the Court of the Edijester. I hope you are well this morning. Got something very interesting for you today, but also very concerning in regards to the Scottish Government, as we know, currently run by the SNP. Simply not practical. What is it you say? Well, we've come across a report, not we, but an organisation called ScotPAG, 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 have given us an article on the new Scottish standards for gender care, which is just mind-blowing. So we still have a problem, to say the least. It seems extraordinary that the Scottish Government has gone ahead and completely ignored CAS by the look of it. ScotPAG have kindly given us an assessment of that situation. Now, first off, a little bit about them. As you can see here on the old screen, we are a group of professionals, they say, representing three major fields of health, education and social work. So they've come together there to collaboratively to share our knowledge and concern about the present modes of understanding and treatment of what has come to be known as gender dysphoria or transgender issues. Our group consists of people who have worked in clinical psychology, education, educational psychology, family therapy, and so on. This is a group of professionals with what sounds like a large amount of experience coming together in order to provide a bulwark against the kind of nonsense that they've now unveiled to us, which flies directly in the face of the work of Dr. Hilary Cass, which has been so important in getting this cult into the public eye, and also giving us weapons and, I suppose, armor to a certain degree against the very worst that these deranged people have to offer. So that's them. You can go and have a look at that. I've got all the links as usual downstairs. Oh, and by the way, Warrior Teacher starting in November. Please do come and join us, and also buy me a coffee or whatever it is you can do. Join the Substack, etc. You can get this if you join the Substack. You get this as a downloadable podcast. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? So you can listen to it if you want to, rather than watch it. So let's get to the document, because I think that's the most important thing. There's also various other things here that you can find, like, for example, education, the education section of the ScotPAG page, very useful indeed. But let's first of all have a look at the standards, what standards article, which they produced on yesterday, I suppose. It's only about a 2-minute read, but nevertheless, let's give it a go and see what it's got to say. So it says standards, what standards? An analysis of the Scottish Government GI Healthcare Team standards, SGHTS, in relation to the CAS recommendations, authored by a GP and an educationalist. So you've then got ScotPAG's response. Click here for link to full standards document. And when you click on that, you will be taken to this page, which is the Gender Identity Healthcare Services Standards. All right, okay. So that's where we're at. All right, that's where we're at with these good people. So what's being said here is that the Gender Identity Healthcare Adults and Young People Standards were published on the 3rd of September 2024, following the CAS report of April 2024, which recommended an holistic approach to children and young adults. Now, holistic meaning looking at the whole situation, the whole picture. That's what that means. The CAS report clearly identified the need to involve and hold accountable a broad range of services and professions. In particular, CAS stressed the importance of schools, social work services, and related professions in the process of assessment and intervention regarding children who stated they were trans. Now, this is a very important point being made here by ScotPAG, and that's because it's a safeguarding risk. As soon as a child says I'm trans, it's a safeguarding risk. End of story. In which case, then we should have a multidisciplinary team, which I think is what's being recommended here. I'm sure they'll put me right if I've got it wrong. Being recommended here, a multidisciplinary team who understand the whole thing, and in particular who can safeguard the child in case they're involved with people who are a part of this gender identity cult behaviour. Dr. Cass said that was important because that needs... They can't just be put in front of people who are simply going to affirm them. And that's what Cass was saying by saying that we needed to get various other people involved, including social services and schools. Instead, right, the Scottish Government's response to this, to a GP, who is a member of ScotPAG, exposed an extremely narrow interpretation of CAS, which will inevitably, in our view, cause more harm to children and young adults. The following points highlighted by GPs who communicated with the Scottish Government demonstrate our Scottish establishment's inability to apply real critical analysis alongside a failure to use best advice. So here's some of the points to note about the standards. Once you've had a look at, you can look at the standards document again on the links from the page here. But they put in an FOI, a Freedom of Information request, which revealed that the draft standards, this is gobsmacking, were sent to over 20 charities supporting gender identity and gender ideology, including LGBTYS, which is LGBT Youth Scotland, as you know, a disgraced organisation who's had real problems with child abuse and other grooming and such like going on amongst their folk. I don't know why they're still in operation. It's beyond me. And then you've got Mermaids, another one that's under investigation by the Charities Commission. And finally, Stonewall, who went after Alison Bailey as a lesbian with great aplomb alongside her chambers, Garden Court chambers, a couple of years ago. So this is a real cavalcade of villains here that the Scottish Government is working with, sent to over 20 charities. I imagine that the LGBT consortium will be in there somewhere. GPs were not consulted. That's astonishing. GPs were not. I spoke to a GP about this, right? A mate of mine happens to be a GP. And he said he only ever saw two of them, two of these people that have got these problems. He said they were both terribly, terribly ill mentally. And both girls. Yep, men do it for the wanking, girls do it because they're fleeing something. This is an astonishing fact that GPs were not consulted, given they are repeatedly referred to in the so-called standards. GPs are not contracted to be involved in the prescribing and monitoring of hormone therapy in gender identity healthcare. So the GPs aren't involved. Consultation did not occur with educationists, social workers, or professionals linked to universal services. So what Cass had said, that core Cass idea of we need to have people from various disciplines coming together in order, I think what that also does is, and that doesn't allow that sort of festering sort of couple of cult-like figures at the centre controlling everything. If you're bringing in people from the outside with a differing point of view, God forbid there should be diversity of opinion in any of this. In the standards definition section, transgender is described as being an umbrella term for those whose gender identity differs or does not fully correspond with the sex they're assigned at birth. They're still using the language of the cult. And there's no good evidence for that at all, as they say here in ScotPAG. There's no good evidence for that at all. It's absolute nonsense. I've seen the umbrella. It originated in San Francisco in about 1980, I think. And it's got everybody in it. Cross-dressers, gusset fumblers, fanny regarders. I mean, it's got the whole horror show is under there, the whole thing. So that these standards in that case apply to drag queens, asexuals, people who want to be eunuchs. The Scottish Government has learnt nothing from what's been going on. Moving forward, the standards refer to putative individuals receiving gender identity care as people. This is a move away from established medical practice. It is advised that those in receipt of medical care should be referred to as patients, in keeping with normal medical practice. This smacks of the commercialisation of the human body. This smacks of call them people, don't call them patients because we want to sell this crap. This smacks of the capitalist side of what we're seeing. There is a lack of robust clinical evidence regarding the long-term adverse effects of endocrine therapy, and yet GPs are being given unequivocal advice regarding a clinical decision-making. So they're saying, well, there's very little evidence, just tell the GPs to do this. It's astounding. The Royal College of General Practitioners supports GPs who feel unable to share or take on gender identity care due to existing workload challenges. The Royal College of General Practitioners also advises that GPs should only work within the limits of their competences. In other words, is it going to end up being the doctors that go, yeah, we're not having it. No, we don't see people with that problem. That is going to help to end this? Is it? But what will then happen to the young people who've got serious comorbidities, other mental conditions, or other situations that they find themselves in? We know autism, ADHD, abuse, looked after kids, sexuality, all these things influence young people. And if they are caught first by the gender gremlins, then they will be affirmed, and that sends them on the pathway, on the trans train, you remember, so brilliantly brought to life by Mr. Manor. Of the numbered standards, nearly all are incoherent and confused. For example, Standard 8.2, organisations should have protocols in place for non-surgical, surgical and pharmaceutical treatment. Well, it begs the questions, which organisation? What protocols? organisations. I mean, this will be something like the Indigo Service, which is the LGBT Foundation service here in Manchester. Or will it be people that have just set themselves up as knowing something about this, like we've seen with so many of the educators going into school and lying through their teeth to children about reality? And then it says clinicians must access the best possible evidence, but the standards have failed to incorporate the cash review. It's not even mentioned. It's just, do you think you're a different species up north? Oh no! Oh no! Did you see that? It was an absolutely incompetent government consultation. It must have been an angry member of the kitchen staff. I mean, there's something, it's just insane. Regarding the Scottish Minister's response to review, the Public Health Minister, Jenny Minto, stated, oh, she sounds sweet, stated on the 3rd of September 24, the Scottish Government have accepted the findings of the report in full and work has started to implement its recommendations. Regarding the Scottish Government, she went on, they were developed following an extensive public consultation, as well as targeted consultation with people with lived experience. Here we go, there it is, lived experience. Absolute bloody nonsense. Clinicians and a wide range of professional bodies. Jenny Minto is being impecunious with the truth, and frankly, we would argue, is misleading Parliament. And as you can see there, the word failure. I agree wholeheartedly that I think Jenny Minto is misleading Parliament. What they're doing is lying at the front end and simply bringing in everything that we know is horrific about this problem at the back end. This is no move forward, Scotland. This is a move backwards. So I think it's important that you should be aware of this. You can go and visit the ScotPAG and see what resources they've got available on their website, because they do have some good resources there for parents and such like who are worried about kids in schools, which I think is now, the aim now is to get the parents on board. The aim now is to get parents to understand what's going wrong, more so than ever, I think. Although we've been doing it, Transgender Trends, Safe Schools, Bayswater Support, Our Duty, all of those have been doing what's required to get this to parents. We really need to now focus on, I think, shaming schools and shaming teachers and shaming individuals. I think that's the only way forward. But you can let me know in the comments whether you think I'm correct. I could well be wrong. More than happy to be proved wrong as usual. Failing that, thank you very much for watching, listening, waving from afar, wherever you are. I hope you have a fantastic day. Come be a warrior teacher and buy me a coffee, will you? I'll see you later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.